We're back. Country versus city. So a bunch of people were wondering, what's better, the Bruderhof urban or the Bruderhof rural? So we just wanted to talk about it. So first, Maureen, over to you. What's your vibe? Like whatever. What do you like better, or what's your experience of living in the Bruderhof in the country and city?
So I've lived in the Bruderhof in both places. I spent more time in the Bruderhof in the country. And I have to say there's ups and downs to both. Obviously in the country you have a lot of space, you have outdoors, it's safer for kids to play, to have, nature, to not be surrounded by tarmac and cement. It's more natural. The great outdoors, you can't really beat that. So especially for growing up, I think, it's definitely the place to be. However, you're also kind of further away from a lot of things that are going on, maybe in your neighborhood, in your locality, more removed from your immediate neighbors, which can make it hard sometimes to connect with other people if you don't, necessarily have friends in the area. So that would be the one downside, I would say. Living in the city, I really enjoyed that. I lived in Albany for a while I was in nursing school. And it was really great because I could go to my friend's house, we could hang out, do projects together, make food, that kind of thing. And just being there with everybody else, and you're living on the same street, and you're there, and everyone sees that you're there, and you can just be you, and people learn who the community is, and they see you, and I think that's really good. Obviously, the city might not be so great to raise kids if you're living in a dangerous part of a city, but there was a family in the community where I lived who were raising their children there, and it does work, as millions of people do all over the world. It's just different environment for people to challenge themselves, I guess, to try something new.
Yeah, I think for different people, there's different challenges.
Yeah.
And I had the experience of living as a kid in the city it was only for a few months in London, when I was living over there with my mom. I loved it. And I was an only child, so it wasn't like it was a family of 6 moving into an urban area and had never had experience and da-da-da-da. Like, I kind of knew cities a bit before because half of my family lives in New York, so I had been visiting them and whatever. So it wasn't like new, but coming home to an apartment building is definitely different than coming home, walking across a nice field of flowers or whatever, and everyone, being in a super safe environment where you're not even going to meet a car. So becoming street smart was a thing that I learned early, that both my parents definitely helped me, and especially my dad. But then, as an adult, absolutely I will take the urban setting every time over the country setting. Although I like living in the country too, as you know, I grow plants for crying out loud. But you can do that in the urban setting, but it's nicer in the country. So I don't know. I just love cities though. Honestly, I do, and I love it because it's more of a melting pot of different peoples, community in the broad context. Not talking about the Bruderhof here, but just like communities of different people, different ethnicities, cultures, whatever. The drill. But I think that it's really great for exposing people to people who don't necessarily act like them, but still have common humanity, and also people of faith that are also not of the same culture. And I think that's something really important to understand, that there are so many of us who are believers, but the way we behave and the context we come from is so different, but it doesn't matter because we all believe in the same thing. So that's a huge plus for urban settings, for Bruderhofs, that I think is super helpful for people, and especially children, to learn early. But to the country, obviously there's so many benefits to just having more quiet spaces, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's basically it. But again, I think the Bruderhof works in either. Maybe not, the size varies. What people do varies, but after all, it's still a community and it still works.
That's it.
Which one would you take?
Probably the city.
Okay. Nice, so we're bound for the city. We will let you know when we move. Okay. See you guys. And yeah, peace and love.